My name is Harris, and for most of my life I believed I was a lucky man. I had a beautiful wife, a stable job, and a small cabin in the woods that I considered my safe place. That cabin wasn't just made of wood and stone. It held years of memories. It was where we celebrated our anniversaries, where we laughed around the fireplace, and where we promised each other forever. For a long time, I trusted my wife completely. She was charming, full of life, and she had a way of making people feel special. I thought our marriage was strong. I thought she loved me the same way I loved her. But sometimes, life has a way of showing you the truth when you least expect it. Over the past few months, something began to change. She grew distant. Her laughter didn't sound the same. Her eyes didn't shine when she looked at me, and she often seemed lost in another world. At first, I told myself it was stress or work. But deep inside, a quiet voice kept whispering that something was wrong. I didn't want to believe it, but my heart knew before my mind could accept it. My wife was hiding something from me, and soon I would discover the truth in the very cabin that once meant love and peace. She thought I was out of town, but she had no idea what surprise was waiting for her there. At first, I didn't want to think badly about my wife. I kept telling myself, she's just tired. Maybe she needs some space. But the signs became too clear to ignore. She started spending more time on her phone, always turned the screen away when I walked into the room. At night, she would smile at her messages, pretending it was something funny from a friend. When I asked, she gave short answers like, "It's nothing important or just work." But her face told me a different story. Then came the excuses. Suddenly, she had to stay late at work or visit a friend. She would dress up more than usual, wearing perfume she hadn't used in months. When I asked why she looked so fancy, she laughed and said, "A woman can't take care of herself." Her words sounded playful, but her eyes avoided mine. My heart felt heavy every time I noticed these things. Still, I wanted proof before I accused her of anything. One night, when she left her phone charging on the table, I looked at it. I knew it was wrong, but I needed the truth. And there it was, messages of someone saved only by an initial, words full of love, plans for secret meetings, even talk about going away together. The final blow came when I saw a message that made my blood run cold. "Can't wait for our weekend at the cabin. He'll be out of town. We'll have it all to ourselves." My cabin, my wife, her lover. I sat there in silence, the phone shaking in my hand. The place that once held our happiest memories was about to become their hiding spot. She thought she was clever, but she didn't know I had just canceled my work trip. She didn't know I was already planning to be there, waiting. After reading those messages, I felt like the ground had disappeared under my feet. Anger, sadness, and betrayal all mixed inside me. For a moment, I wanted to scream at her, to show her that I knew everything. But then I stopped. If I lost control, she would only lie again. I needed to be calm. I needed a plan. That night, I told her about a fake business trip. I acted busy, packed a small bag, and kissed her goodbye in the morning as if nothing was wrong. She smiled, thinking she was free for the weekend. She didn't know I had already turned the game around. Instead of driving to the airport, I drove straight to the cabin. My heart raced as I opened the door and stepped inside. The familiar smell of wood and pine hit me, but it no longer felt warm. This time, it would become the stage for truth. I prepared carefully. First, I installed a few hidden cameras I had bought months ago for security. They were small enough that no one would notice. Then, I removed some personal things, important papers, valuable items, so nothing could be damaged if things went badly. Next, I left small signs only she would notice. A photo frame slightly turned, a note tucked into the drawer, an old sweater of mine left on the chair. Nothing too obvious, but enough to make her wonder if something felt strange. As the sun went down, I sat quietly in the upstairs room, hidden behind the curtain. I could hear the wind outside, the creaking of the wooden walls, and my own heartbeat. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. She thought the cabin would be her secret love nest. But when she arrived with him, she would find out the truth. I was already there, waiting. It was late evening when I finally heard the sound of a car rolling up the dirt road. My chest tightened. The cabin windows glowed faintly from the lantern I had left on, but the rest of the house was dark. From upstairs, I carefully peeked through the curtain. There she was, my wife, stepping out of the car with a smile on her face I hadn't seen in months. Her laughter echoed in the night, light and free, as if she had no worries in the world. But the laughter wasn't for me. It was for the man who stepped out on the other side. Tall, confident, carrying a bag as if he belonged there. They walked up to the porch, hand in hand. My wife pulled out the cabin key I had given her years ago, a symbol of trust. She unlocked the door, not knowing I was just a few steps above, hiding in the shadows. When they entered, I watched silently from the upstairs hallway. She looked around with excitement, placing her bag on the sofa. "It feels so cozy," she whispered to him, her voice soft and sweet, a tone I once believed was only for me. The man laughed and wrapped his arm around her. They kissed, slowly, deeply, as if the cabin was their private paradise. My blood boiled, but I stayed still, forcing myself to remain calm. Every second burned inside me, but this was the proof I needed. I let them settle in. They poured wine, lit a few candles, and laughed about how lucky they were that I was out of town. Every word cut deeper, but it also made my resolve stronger. They thought they were safe. They thought no one could see them. But I was there, watching, waiting. Soon, the moment would come when I would step out of the darkness and show them the truth. I stayed upstairs longer than I thought I could. Every laugh, every kiss, every whispered word was like a knife in my chest. My hands clenched into fists, and part of me wanted to rush down immediately. But I forced myself to wait. Timing was everything. Finally, when they grew comfortable, sitting close on the couch, wine glasses half empty, their voices soft and careless, I decided it was time. My heart pounded so hard I thought they might hear it. Slowly, I stepped out of the shadows and walked down the stairs. The wooden steps creaked under my feet. My wife looked up first. Her smile froze. The color drained from her face as if she had seen a ghost. The man beside her turned his head, confused at first, then shocked. "Harris?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Yes," I said calmly, though every muscle inside me burned with rage. "Surprised to see me?" She jumped to her feet, stammering. I thought you were out of town." "That's what you wanted to believe," I interrupted, my eyes cold. "But I never left. I've been here, waiting." The man put his glass down and tried to act brave. "Look, man, this isn't what it looks like." I laughed bitterly. "Really?" "Because it looks exactly like what it is. Two people betraying someone who trusted them." I pulled a small remote from my pocket and pointed to the corners of the room. "See those? Cameras. I've been recording everything since the moment you walked in." My wife's eyes widened in horror. "No, you didn't." "Oh, yes, I did." I held up my phone, showing a live feed. Every kiss, every word, all of it saved. The man shifted uncomfortably, his confidence gone. "This is crazy. I should leave." "You should," I said firmly, "and take your bag with you. It's by the door." He hesitated, looking at my wife as if waiting for her to stop him. But she just stood frozen, her hand shaking. Finally, he grabbed his bag and rushed out, leaving her behind. Silence filled the cabin after the door closed. My wife tried to step toward me, tears streaming down her face. "Harris, please, let me explain." But I raised my hand to stop her. "No, I've heard enough. I saw enough. There's nothing left to explain." Her voice broke. "I made a mistake. Please don't do this." I stared at her, my heart torn between pain and anger. The woman I once loved was now a stranger. And tonight, she would finally understand the cost of betrayal. My wife stood there trembling, tears running down her face. Once, those tears would have broken me. I would have held her, comforted her, and done anything to take away her pain. But now, I could only see them as part of her act. "Harris, please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "It was a mistake. He means nothing to me." I shook my head slowly. "A mistake? You planned this. You brought him here. To our cabin. To my place. Don't insult me by calling it a mistake. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. I can explain. No, I cut her off. I don't want excuses. I don't need explanations. I already know the truth. Her eyes darted nervously to the cameras in the corners, as if hoping I was bluffing. I pulled out my phone again and pressed play. The sound of her laughter filled the room, followed by her voice telling him, "We'll have the cabin all to ourselves. He'll never know." Her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the couch, covering her face. "I told you," I said coldly. "I've recorded everything. And it's not just for me. My lawyer already has copies. The divorce papers are ready. The only thing left was for you to prove what I already suspected." She gasped, lowering her hands. "Divorce? No, Harris, please. We can fix this. I'll change. Don't throw away everything we built." I let out a bitter laugh. "You threw it away the moment you invited him here. Do you think I'd ever be able to look at this cabin, or at you, the same way again?" She shook her head, crying harder now. "I was lonely. I thought you didn't care anymore." I leaned closer, my voice firm but calm. "I care more than you ever knew, but you chose to betray me. And now, you have to live with the consequences." Then I dropped the final blow. "This cabin? It's not yours anymore. The ownership papers are already changed. You'll never step foot here again." Her sobs filled the room, echoing against the wooden walls that once held our happiest memories. She reached out again, but I turned away. "You thought I was out of town," I said as I headed for the door. "But I was here all along. And now, so is the truth." The sound of the door closing behind me was louder than any scream. The night air hit my face as I stepped out of the cabin. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Behind me, I could still hear her muffled sobs through the wooden walls. But I didn't stop. Each step away from that place felt like a step away from the lies that had been choking me. The forest was quiet except for the rustling of leaves. I walked slowly toward my car, the gravel crunching under my shoes. My hands were shaking, not from fear anymore, but from release. The truth was out. No more pretending, no more lies. As I sat inside my car, I looked back at the cabin one last time. Once, it had been my favorite place in the world. Now it was nothing more than a stage where the mask had finally fallen off. She thought it was her secret paradise, but it had become her prison of guilt. I didn't feel joy, and I didn't feel victory. What I felt was freedom. She had destroyed everything between us, but she also gave me the chance to walk away without regret. I had proof, I had closure, and most importantly, I had control of my own life again. By the time I drove off, I knew she was still inside, crying, probably begging the empty room for forgiveness. But her tears no longer had power over me. The woman I once loved was gone, replaced by someone I could never trust again. The road stretched out before me, dark but open. My future was uncertain, but at least it was mine. As I drove away from the cabin, I felt a strange mix of pain and relief. Pain, because I had lost a woman I once loved more than anything. Relief, because I finally knew the truth and didn't have to live in lies anymore. For a long time, I believed love meant holding on no matter what. But now I understand that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let go. Trust, once broken, can never truly be fixed. And a marriage without trust is only an empty shell. My wife thought she was clever, that she could play with my heart and never face the consequences. But life always reveals the truth in the end. She thought I was out of town, yet I was right there, waiting, watching, and ready. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And as the road carried me forward, I promised myself one thing. Never again would I give my whole heart to someone who didn't deserve it.